You're listening to the Four Phase Cycle podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the four phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes. Well, hello there. Megan here. Welcome back to the Four Phase Cycle podcast. I just had the honor of interviewing Barbara Ditlow. I recently am in a human design, living your human design class with Barbara, and it has been so eye-opening actually taking the knowledge from that of my human design and applying it in life. And I would love for you, if you've never heard of human design and you don't know your type and you've never gotten your chart for human design, I would suggest that you pause this recording, pause this podcast right now, go on over to jovianarchive.com, Jovian archive.com. We'll put it in the show notes, and just scroll down to where it says get your free chart. You will need your birth time and date and location, and then it will spit out your chart so that when she's talking about projectors and manifesting generators and different types, you will know what the heck is going on. It'll be really, really helpful. So Barbara is a certified human design analyst, coach, and teacher. She has studied energy and esoteric healing with practitioners from around the world, including Ra himself, who's the founder of human design, and Eckhart Tolle. Her experience includes feng shui, astrology, yoga, intuitive healing, art therapy, and cult interventions. Prior to her study of human design, she worked in sales and marketing at CBS Publishing in New York City and was president of Meta Quality Inc., an international consulting training company. Barbara's training in human design astrology, along with her diverse life experiences, enables her to skillfully coach her clients through the process of maximizing their life's potential. As a gifted listener, adept at asking transformative questions, her clients experience personal satisfaction and success in their finances, relationships, and career. I know personally, I could sit and listen to Barbara forever. Her energy is amazing. She's just such a kind woman, and the way she shares and has so much knowledge. So check out this interview. Check out some of the things she shared about what the different types are, how they impact your health. And then what I found fascinating towards the end is what she talked about sleeping patterns and who you're sleeping with, how important that is for your health. We'd love to hear your feedback. Please always send us an email if you have questions or comments, support@zestyginger.com. Come on over to Instagram @zesty_ginger and comment. Take a screenshot, share with a friend, leave a review. All these things help us so much to get the word out there to other women who could use this information. All right, I hope you have a fabulous time listening to this and learn as much as I did. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Four Phase Cycle podcast. I have a special guest here with me today, Barbara Ditlow. Welcome, Barbara, to the podcast.
Love being here.
I'm so excited that you accepted the invitation. And we're going to be talking about human design today. So Barbara, just for the backstory for you to know is that when I get into topics, I get really, really into them. I go down the rabbit hole and I love to learn. So someone had shared human design with me maybe a year ago, and I had this feeling I knew what was going to happen once I got into it. So I was in a place where I was like, okay, I'm not quite ready. I had some other classes I was in. And so luckily it came back around and I took a course with you. And so now I completely see what's going to happen and where this is going. I'm so fascinated and just using this small amount of information I know so far about human design and starting to live it just in the past few months has already really helped me a lot. So we are going to go into the basics of human design. If you could just start, Barbara, by telling our audience a little bit about you, how you first got into human design, a little backstory would be fabulous.
Mhm. I got into human design around 2002. And during that time, we were not really up and running in terms of emails. I mean, computers, technology, it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. The iPhone hadn't come. So much of the information that we had was through classes. So I had received an invitation to go to a party in New York City. And at that party, there was a person who said, "Hey, I have a way to read your genetic code. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Okay, great. Let's do this." And so I had my reading done and it just caught me. And a few months later, a friend of mine said, "Hey, there's going to be some classes in Martha's Vineyard. Would you like to go with me?" And I immediately said yes. So we went up to Martha's Vineyard, and there was a week session that I had with one of the teachers, and it pulled me right into human design. And then I was able to start taking classes with Ra. So this was back 2002, 2003. He still only taught classes in person. He taught them in Ibiza and in Sedona, and would travel around to New York and other cities in the US and in Europe. And then in 2005, it was March or April, he launched the first interactive online classes. So for 3 or 4 years, it was just book learning. The books weren't even out yet. So it was a very sort of disjointed, but kind of fun time before the classes went online. Once they went online, they were more formalized and they were more focused. More people could take the classes. And before that, it was basically depending on your timing, your location, the expense, things like that.
And so Ra is the founder of human design, correct?
Mhm.
And then will you share a little bit of all the different things that make up human design?
Mhm. Human design is a revelation. And so when you look at it as a revelation, it is something that's growing and ongoing in the sense that everybody's going to interpret the revelation in their own way, but there's some basic concepts to it. And the main concept is that it's a synthesis of esoteric and exoteric information. So it synthesizes the abstract and the logical. So we have the I Ching, which is a 64 hexagrams in the ancient Chinese tradition. And then we have the Hindu Brahmin chakra system. It's a little bit different than the traditional yoga chakras, which are 7, going straight up the center column from the root to the head. And in human design, we actually have 9 chakras, so that's a difference. There's also the Kabbalah, or the tree of life. And then we have the astrological planetary system, and it's based on Western astrology, not Vedic astrology. So that's the esoteric. And some of your listeners probably know astrology, they know their design. Some of them probably do yoga. Some of them are probably involved in feng shui, which uses the I Ching. And some of them probably are raised in the tradition of the Kabbalah. So the idea the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, the way these things synthesize is really fascinating to see. Now, on the other side, you have biochemistry, you have genetics, and you have quantum physics. And the beautiful part, what I've sort of relishing now, is the fact in human design, there's a synthesis of the opposites. So in anybody's chart, when you first start out, you're going to look at your chart and you're going to see, oh, what's black and what's yellow. I mean, what's black and what's red. And you're going to see right from the beginning, you have this conscious, unconscious dynamic in your chart. So we're dealing with dilemmas and we're dealing with opposites. So it becomes a mapping system. You put all these parts together, the esoteric and exoteric, and it's a mapping system by which you can really look in a body graph and understand how you are designed to operate in the world. In other words, how you're designed to experience life, not as the culture said, not as your mom and dad said, not as the high priestess or the guru or the teacher. There's a way that's totally unique and separate from your environment, but there are also hints of how you're going to interact with the environment as well.
And so, Barbara, this is going to all be based on, and in the intro, I ask people if they want to go just get their chart so they'll know the basics, but based on, where you're born, time of birth, right, location. So this is a chart. The chart doesn't change. You get your
Yeah.
chart the way it is. And
Yes.
I know just from from the last few months of anything, all my friends have all looked at their charts. And when we're reading through it, every single person is amazed at how right on this information is. It just lines up with them.
Mhm.
And I would love, how do you see human design impacting people's lives most? So, relationship, business, or understanding themselves. What do you think is the biggest benefit of understanding your design?
Mm. I would say the biggest impact is you're not rejecting who you are and wanting to be someone else. I mean, we're all conditioned by social media. We're conditioned by people that are elevated to the status of what we call um, social influencers, Hollywood people. And most of us will find that we're always comparing ourselves to other people. Oh, I'm too fat. I'm too short. I haven't made enough money. I don't have the right relationship. I'm not in the right city. I don't know where to go. So, all of these thoughts are really comparing yourself to something that you can never be. And so it gets rid of comparative thought. And that, if most people consider how many times during the day they wish they were someone else, they wish they were someplace else, they wish they had someone else in their life that they don't have. And so I would say it gets rid of that mind chatter, which is grounded in comparative thought.
Getting rid of that is an amazing benefit. I know that for my husband and I, and also my business partner and I, knowing the relationship between our types has been really eye opening. I'm a manifesting generator, and then I have all these projectors in my life, Barbara.
Oh, great. they're, they're observing you.
I have a husband, a mom, a business partner, and one of my best friends. So they're all around me. If could you please share just the basics of what the types are and what the differences are?
Yes. The metaphor that I use would be, cars that are electric cars, some that need low octane gas, some that need supercharged gas, some cars that move that are race cars, some that are, SUVs, some that are, little tiny, sports electric cars. So the key thing is that everybody has a way that their body is designed to be active or inactive. And so the way the electromagnetic, you could call it life force, moves through each person is very different. And it's so different that if you're not aware of it, you can end up with very strange energy diseases. And most doctors know that there are a lot of symptomatic diseases that they can't diagnose. Well, you seem to be fine, but you're telling me you're exhausted. So usually there are four types, and these four types deal with how you channel energy, how this electromagnetic force goes through you. So, for example, you're a manifesting generator. So you're a subtype of what we call the generator category, and it's exactly what it says. It generates energy. So in your lifetime, you're connected to this incredible life force that gives you the ability to get work done. So you're worker bees. You work, 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 work. And part of that is because you love working. There's a passion there, provided that you know who you are and you're doing the work you love. And right now we're in a transition for generators because so many generators have the energy to work and they are easily scooped up by other people who want them to work for them. And that can be great, provided that the generator is rewarded and that they really feel there's a value in that relationship. So the generators are the chosen ones. Now, if I say chosen ones, it means the generators really have that ability to sustain and continue their work and get up in the morning and work until you drop, literally. And then you're out at night. Do you experience that?
Yes, absolutely. I just
Okay.
hit the pillow and I'm done.
Yeah, and you can't go to sleep until that energy is dissipated. So for a manifesting generator and a generator, the key is to respond. Just respond to stimulus in life. In other words, life comes towards you. And the metaphor that I would give is you're sitting by the river and things are moving down the river and you're just waiting for what looks interesting or what your gut responds to, a hunch, a knowing. And then you respond to that and then you act. Now, the challenge with manifesting generators is their aura is the same. However, their need to act on that response is going to be very, very powerful. So oftentimes they act prematurely before they have the response. And the beauty of a generator is that response mechanism. You could almost say it's a filter. It's filtering what we call the frequencies, or you could say what you're sensing in the environment around you. As it filters that frequency, what happens, it says, engage your energy or not. Engage your energy or not. And oftentimes you'll hear stories or autobiographies of people say, I just had a hunch. I just had a hunch. And usually those are generators that are able to know when to act. How does it work with you, Megan? Because you've been in your experiment for a while now.
Right. So I am on the tribal wave, the ratchet wave. So I do operate most often by gut instinct, and then I make that decision pretty quickly, and those work out really well most of the time. And at the same time, I've been learning that that I do ride this wave. I do ride this wave in my home, and the people around me are also amplifying my wave. So I can tell that sometimes I need to wait until, right, I'll kind of get frustrated or I'll go on a really high on something. And if I don't wait until that peters out a little bit, then I maybe jump into something that's not best for me.
Beautiful. So what you spoke about is another aspect to the four types, because there are four types and they can be divided into two groups. And the first group is what we call the cool, the people that are not designed to experience this wave of emotion, I guess you could call it. It's motion moving through you. And then others are not. So there's a binary there. So the pure generator can just respond. And then it harmonizes them to the timing of whatever engagement they want to be in. And then they can go manifest, or a regular generator responds and acts accordingly. The other type that you mentioned was projector. So projectors are the observers sometimes, but projectors are really designed to have this aura that penetrates and pokes and penetrates and then absorbs. It's a very a curious thing with the projector aura. Now, the generator aura is open and enveloping. So when people are around you, Megan, they're going to feel this open, enveloping, warm, juicy aura because of that emotional quality and because you do have a double aura. So as the double aura works, or as this beautiful aura works, you start pulling people in towards you. Now, projector is very different. It's neither closed nor repelling or open. It's just looking for something to focus on. And so there's what we call the projector focus. Have you experienced that?
Yes.
And what does it feel like to you?
When the projectors focused on me, is that
Yes.
I just recently had, I like to often blame my husband for moods and things that are going on in the house, right? I think, oh, he's moody. Why is he moody? And Barbara, we had the most, I always used to think, well, it can't possibly be me. He doesn't even know what's going on for me, or I haven't even talked to him yet, right? And we
Yes.
had an interaction the other day. Now that I'm aware of my design and I'm aware that he can amplify me, we literally crossed paths, Barbara. I was walking and he was running. He stopped for a minute and I was having a really rough morning, had a bad dream. I was in my head and just ruminating. I was trying to clear it. I was like, I was trying to clear this emotion and feeling. And we just crossed paths. I just kind of said, go home, the kids are waiting. And didn't have much of an interaction. And then when I got back to the house, he seemed to be really, really grumpy. And I'm like, well, that can't be mine because I wasn't even in the house. And when we were talking about it later, he said, when I saw you, he said, I felt all the energy drain out of my body. And I didn't even know what was wrong, but I didn't run home, and I felt off ever since. So then I realized I really did pass this energy to him, or that was what we were experiencing. So that now that I know it's mine, I can't, and like, I can't blame him per se, has really helped us, because then I can just work on my stuff and he can just be.
It's beautiful. You showed the power of the relationship, knowing how this works in relationships so you don't get in the blame game.
Right.
Really nice. So the beauty of that interchange is projectors, they can feel things, but they have to be invited in to share what they see. Because the existential question, or the main question that a generator has, is who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Whereas projectors, that's not the question. It's who's the other person? Who are you? So their focus is always focused, penetrating toward the other person. So the other person can be very uncomfortable unless they're invited in. So the projector generator is a very mystical relationship, and it's very supportive to both, provided there's an open invitation, or what we call provisional invitation, where it's similar to saying, I love you, but don't give me that projector stare until I invite you in. We leave it that way. And then there's the manifester. Manifestors are wonderful. I was raised with 4 of them in my family, emotional and non-emotional. And the challenge with manifestors is their aura is totally closed, and it pushes, it repels. And they're not aware of it, but in doing so, other people can be offended. And in a culture where people get offended very easily, they can misinterpret manifestors. And manifestors simply are very, very good at initiating events, ideas, and they would be similar to the Nike commercial, just go out and do it, because no response is required. They just have to inform people around them, what they're going to do after the wave planes, or after they have decided what they want to do. The challenge with manifestors is their question is, who do I impact? So anyone who's watching this, who happens to be a manifestor, spend a day going around and asking your friends, do I have an impact on you? Did I hurt you? Did I seem a little bitchy to you today? Those things. And they may be surprised when they ask that person the question. I doubt they will. But when they ask people those questions, they'll realize they really are an impactful force. And once they understand that, then they'll understand the wisdom in informing people close to them what they're going to do. So that person says, okay, go do it. Do your thing, baby. Go do it. I'm fine. And then the last type is reflector. Now, reflectors are pretty amazing because they have what we call they're very open, but they have what we call a resistant aura. It samples around them, but it's resistant to being conditioned. The projectors are those that have I would say, the most difficult challenges in life, because they can be so conditioned, as you were saying with your husband, by the environment around them. They're designed to be conditioned, whereas reflectors, not so much. So they actually work best in a large group or within a family unit, because all you have to do is look at their face and see how they're feeling, because they literally pick up the feeling in the room. And so it would be like the canary in the coal mine, or a contemporary adjective or noun would be the whistleblower. They're the whistleblower. They can feel if something's wrong, or if something's right, then you can see it in who they are. And they have to wait for the cycle of the moon to make major decisions. And depending on when the major decision is required, there's a trigger point, and they wait 28 days, because during this time, they can experience being a generator, a projector, or a manifestor, or manifesting generator. So they're probably the most rare, 1 in 100. And reflectors have a challenging time in terms of finding their community, because they have to find the community where they feel they belong, and they can offer up what they're experiencing in the community.
Oh, so fascinating. I met a reflector this weekend. That was great. Barbara, so let's talk a little bit about how the different types could be related to health, just because physical, emotional health is something we talk about a lot here on the podcast.
Mhm.
And I've been starting to watch some patterns, like with, like you just said, projectors being so conditioned. And I'm just curious if you see patterns kind of with health concerns based on different types.
Oh boy, the I'm laughing because in my life I've seen it. I've seen it with people close to me, and I've had the good fortune of, this is my 20th year, so I've gone through many cycles of deconditioning. And and to your point, the information that you gain in human design is huge. You can start immediately, but there is a cellular cycle of 7 years in which the body has to literally decondition from this programming. Now, the programming is, you've got to act, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, I've got lists. So all of us are under pressure to perform. We're in a culture which is pretty business oriented, and particularly since the rise of technology and the interface of technology with the human being, we're having a real crisis because we have the digital world meeting the analog world. And most of us, I mean, because I was born in the late 40s, I've seen this whole, what I call the rise of a different rhythm being imposed on us. And one of the rhythms is there's no break between work and home life. In other words, everybody's on their computer at night. And so we have the overstimulation of all four types. And the overstimulation is not only electronic, it's also through ignorance of your type. So you go back to comparative thought. Oh, I think I need to do this to get to this goal right now. Oh, I think I need to do this. Or you just get so locked in fear because of the political power of fear, that fear creates stress and stress creates problems. So this is a long way to go around the health thing, but I'm going to start from the basics. The basics is, if you're in fear, your body switches. There is the amygdala changes, your hormones change, your fight or flight. And if that cannot be handled quickly, because your mind can't distinguish between something that's really going to eat you up like a tiger, licking its lips and going to devour you, versus, do we go into another lockdown? The mind doesn't distinguish. It creates those hormones and that kind of stimulation in the body. So over time, when you get fatigued through this fear, what happens is you start getting problems. Now, human design came in 1987 with the revelation that we're moving through a huge change, and it's a change leading up to 2027. And during that time, what's happening is that we are having a change in the way we're feeling about the world. It's becoming more unstable. So there's an instability that's now being thrown into the fear. So anyone I'm sure that you meet, their life is chaotic. They're afraid of the future. They don't know if they're going to lose their job. Am I getting COVID? Is COVID real? Is the vaccination safe? All of these questions. And so human design came in to give people the ability to make decisions as themselves through their type, so they can navigate this uncertainty and get to a place of what I call living and loving who they are, not comparing themselves to anyone else. Because when you love who you are, you have an easier way of managing the stress. So let's say a projector, because they can be so conditioned, all of a sudden the projector says, I have to do this. By God, I took this workshop. I took this. I mean, I have a whole agenda here. If I do this, I'm going to have this sales marketing funnel. I'm going to reach 100,000 people, and I'm going to make a 6-figure income this year. Now, I have spoken to projectors who talk like that, and they're just starting out. That's a great concept, but the idea that someone else can give you a platform or give you a method to accomplish something it's not going to work, because we're all unique. We're all different. Now, people can do that, but there's a toll on their body. So human design says this is about bringing health to your body. So if you're a projector, you have to wait to be invited and recognized for who you are and what you are about. Now, in order to do that, you have to know your design. You have to know your design. What is your gift? There's 64 hexagrams, 64 areas of life where you can be a real specialist. And one of your gifts is you have a lot of energy, and you live according to your convictions. So we know right away your design already establishes a purpose and a direction in your life. So with mine as a projector, I was a yoga instructor. I still am a real estate broker. I did astrological readings. I was a contractor, renovated homes. And when I met Ra, he looked at me and he said, well, that's very nice, Barbara, but you'll have to give it all up. And he said, this is what you're designed to do. And what I was designed to do was to be a listener and explain experiences to people. I listen to them and then give them a better life, because I'm a sphinx. I'm here to give people direction. That's my imprint. It took me a while to let go of the idea of who I needed to be versus who I was designed to be. So what happened in my life is my health radically improved. What improved was I no longer had burnout. And for you, when you do the gut response and then you wait on the emotions, what's happening is you're aligning your energy to the timing of when you need to do something and when you need to go out there, and your mood. Because you know that if you're feeling really confused and in a bad mood and then go do something, the quality of interaction, the care, the enhancement of the care of whatever you're doing isn't going to be there. It's going to be imbued with that energy that you have. So even with generators, because they're 70% of the population, their biggest thing is burnout. And that burnout is because they're under stress and they feel that they're going to push. And it's fine for them to be active, but there's a difference between responding and being reactive or initiating conceptually. And the manifestors that are really the big ones is the manifestors. They can really end up in a very hostile environment. And then they get into psychological analysis. Why is this not working? And then they can have all sorts of, emotional problems, which bring on illnesses because they're rejected because of their energy.
And then what is the reflector related to health? Do they have a
pattern? The reflector is very interesting because I was working with a reflector who had 3 companies, and she did not delegate. So she was always dealing with exhaustion. Now, the thing about her exhaustion was she was also in a marriage with a manifesting generator. And when the marriage broke up, she was absolutely devastated. And the problem with the devastation was that she mixed in with the devastation is she realized that her migraine headaches that she had experienced throughout the whole marriage disappeared. So she loved the guy, but even though she had what we call a resistant aura, she was still bringing in that energy. She was still bringing in that energy. And so with reflectors, they have to be very, very careful of where they are in their cycle, because at times every reflector can feel their manifesting generator and then overdo it and get into burnout. And you probably deal with that all the time.
Right. So Dr. Alex, who you haven't met yet, but she's my business partner, who is the projector. And so she's now learning her design and realizing that she went through 12 years of medical school and been through this setup that's really not ideal for a projector life, and has had chronic pain and all sorts of health things. And so now she's on the other side where she can kind of design her life and create it in the way that she wants. So we're working on, we've always known she's the visionary, and when she is aligned, things just happen. And I'm more of the doer, right? And the generator. And at the same time, I've noticed just what you said, Barbara, when I make a list, like when I think I have to be productive and I make just a random list of things people are doing, That never goes well. And when I just kind of not wait, I mean, yeah, in a way, just wait and whatever comes up, the next course, the next thing, it's always just perfect for me.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So the health profession oftentimes, uses pharma, big pharma, to change people's, you could say, their feeling of being healthy. Giving them drugs, giving them all sorts of things. And I'm not speaking against them, but I have worked with quite a few people that have been getting off, Ritalin, psychotropic drugs they've been on. Um, and and as they get into human design, something happens. They begin to be more relaxed in their body. They're not pushing their body. They're not, the word I want to use is rejecting their body. They're beginning to say, okay, what kind of vehicle am I in? Is the car going to be, can my body do a 12-hour day? There are people that are designed to maybe work 4 hours a day and that's it. And it's not because they do not have the ability, but their body is not going to be able to sustain that long term. Now, what I'm seeing is that when I was a child, I was surrounded by people 195 and 98. It was not unusual. And I'm seeing people drop in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s now, which for me is very young because as a child, you had people that had a more relaxed lifestyle and weren't pushing themselves and trying to be what they weren't. And even it was a kinder society in the sense that 9 to 5 was a work day. And then you had that whole evening to be open and relaxed and not push yourself. So I would say we're having a big challenge between, wanting to be someone who you think you should be, and then realizing, oh, I don't really have to be that person. And then a door opens. See, the key to health, human design is the key that unlocks the door to a new way of movement in your life and a new way of waiting to see what's going to open up with you as your design indicates you're designed to be. It becomes a very unusual happening, and I'm sure you've experienced that.
Right. I think that what we often know, or I often know how I am, right? I know that I'm a certain way, and then I'll have a belief that maybe that's not the way I should be. I'm doing air quotes, right?
Yeah.
So one example, because if once you start to get into this, you'll learn, and I've been learning from Barbara, that each center, whether it's defined or undefined, open, closed, can mean something different. So I learned that I have an open G center, for example. And in this, Barbara you had said, you will really enjoy having other people tell you that you're loved, you're worthy, you're beautiful every day, right? Like I can really use this external, whereas my husband has a defined G center and he just knows he's worthy and loved. He just feels this. So he's a little bit like, well, why would I need to tell you? I just told you 4 days ago, right? And just knowing this from my design, it takes away I don't know if we'd call it guilt or shame, or the belief that I should know I should know how worthy I am. Just, I shouldn't need people to tell me. And since this, he's just been made the effort to just tell me every single day. And I've made the effort to just accept it in a way that before I couldn't accept because I believed I shouldn't need it. And it's made this beautiful dynamic of both of us feel good about saying it and receiving it. So that kind of thing, I think, can really change like a relationship, and of course, health, because then not having shame and guilt, we know that leads to health problems.
Beautiful. And you tapped into, as you know your own personal needs in human design, where you're open or versus where you're not, it helps the relationship because these dynamics that were not understood now can be expressed, and then all of a sudden it's moving differently. These little are just smoothed out. The wrinkles smoothed out. I love that.
Right. I even had said normally if I would send something to Dr. Alex to, how does this look? Do you approve it? I would often ask, what do you think? And after learning about my human design, I realized I didn't really care what she thought. I just wanted her to say, good job, Megan, right? I just wanted her to say great. And so I sent it over and I said, I was going to ask you what you thought, but I'd really just like you to tell me good job. And she said, great job, Megan. It was just funny because that made it so much clearer. That was all I really wanted. I could say it. And we just both laughed about it.
Yes. Now I have a question. I'm a projector, so I'm always going to ask a question. Can you, when you asked before, what do you think? Was that something you were conditioned to say? Or where did you pick that up versus now knowing, well, I really just wanted you to say it's good?
Right. I was fishing for the compliment.
Okay.
It was just, yeah, it was conditioned. It was just, well, you shouldn't, was the belief that you shouldn't directly ask
Mhm.
someone to tell you you did something good. So I would just a roundabout ask
Yeah.
what they think and hope they would say this is great. But when you ask somebody what they think, they'll usually, or for feedback, they'll usually tell you something maybe that could be improved,
Mhm.
right? Which is not what I was looking for. I
Yes.
felt great about it.
Yes. No, that's beautiful because your health improved in that moment. See, every moment is an opportunity for health or for sickness. And just by changing that dialogue with your husband on the G Center and then with the doctor that you work with, now there's a point of health in what you say, at the time. And that really does have an effect on people.
I believe it. It feels different in our house. Things are changing rapidly. We have a lot of transition going on as well. Although I can feel it. And Barbara, I'd love for you to share the bit about sleeping and how it's best to go to sleep for each type. I think that's something that our listeners would really enjoy
Yes.
playing around with.
Yes, I'm going to share a couple of things about sleep because all sleep types are different. And the sleep types are different because of the way that the energy moves through them. So we'll start with all types. When you sleep, your aura is not protected. Now, the electromagnetic aura goes about out maybe 6 feet. People have a double aura, it can go a little bit wider than that. So the aura is an electromagnetic force that acts and creates your type. So when you sleep at night, your aura is not protected. So when you sleep with someone, you're being conditioned by that person that you're sleeping with. So let's say you're a projector and you're pretty open and you're sleeping with someone who's a manifesting generator. You may not get a fitful sleep because you're constantly being affected by that motor. So sometimes you'll find that the warmth and the love of sleeping with someone is more important to you than the conditioning that's happening. This is something that's very based on your individual decision making, whether you sleep together or not. But in human design, they say eventually, if there's a problem in the marriage or the relationship, it's good to sleep in separate beds for a while so your aura is protected and you can begin to get enough rest to communicate more effectively. So that's the first rule. The second rule is that for projectors, they are the one type that really needs rest. I mean, they really need rest because they're the ones that are most conditioned. So part of their rest requires them to go through a deconditioning process and be in their own aura. So for a projector, they need about an hour before they go to bed. They cannot be like generators, just burn out. And so an hour before bedtime, they can either take a bath or they can take a shower or they can go for a walk or they can open up a book. It's best not to be on the computer. It's best not to fall asleep in front of the television because projectors, by their innate design, have a very active mind because they've taken in a lot of mental stimulation. So an hour before they go to bed, they have a ritual. They can make whatever ritual they want, but it's a slow down process. It's slowing down and the reason being is if they wait until they drop, then they're already creating problems in their health. They can show up later. And so for projector, 8 hours. And you'll talk to some projectors, oh, I only need 5. Well, yeah, if you're young, but what happens is these become chronic diseases all of a sudden because the body's pretty resilient until all of a sudden it's not. So the projector is very unique. Now, a generator and a projector relationship, they'll feel the projector is, if the projector knows themselves and says they need their sleep and they need 8 hours, and the generator doesn't understand it, they can say, what are you talking about? Why are you so exhausted? I don't get it. And the projector's exhausted. They have to go to sleep. Now, conversely, let's say a projector who's doesn't know their design. The projector can feel more energetic than the generator. And most people will say that person feels more like a generator because they're amplifying the energy. And then they don't sleep. They only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Eventually, they'll be seeing the doctor because they have some sort of chronic illness. So I caution anyone to figure out a person's type before you actually see the chart. I'm throwing this in because they'll say, oh, feels like a generator. Oh, feels like a projector. No, because there's so much confusion in terms of who people are. They're going to take on different roles. So with the generator, you just work and work and work and go and go and go until you drop. Now, the key is you can fall asleep on the couch. You can fall asleep, in your car. You can fall asleep in your bed. But when you go to, let's say you do go to bed at night, do not wake up to an alarm. So many generators will say they'll have part of it. Yes, I'm going to go, 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 go till I drop. And then they have the alarm set and they may have 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Now, I have seen generators that go on 3 or 4 hours of sleep and they can lose everything because they have anger issues or they have impulse control issues because they haven't gotten enough rest. And there's the book, Why We Sleep. It just came out and it talked about the need for rest, particularly for all types, but because the brain has to detoxify. And we're looking at the rates of Alzheimer's increasing and the buildup of beta polyamyloids in the neural synapses. And that's usually because people aren't getting enough rest. I mean, they're speculating, but I can see with my mother who passed on with Alzheimer's, she would only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep at night because she had such a large family and worked full time. So rest for generators is critical, and let your body determine when you're getting up, not that alarm clock. Okay. So, and that goes for manifesting generators too. And so the manifestor is interesting because the manifestor is an energy type, but they don't have the sacral. In other words, a manifestor is a little bit different. So they have to be very careful not to overdo it. So the manifestor can put themselves to bed when they're ready to sleep. And sometimes they can have books in the room and whatever they need to keep themselves going. But they'll have a knowing when they need to rest, when they need to sleep. But the manifestors, they're different in the sense that their aura is closed, so they're not deconditioning as much as a generator would need to, or as a projector. And then we've got the reflector. Now the reflector, goes to bed when they're tired. The same thing, just wakes up when they're what I call rejuvenated. And the challenge with a reflector is to get a certain rhythm. It's going to change with the cycle of the moon because there are going to be different phases where they feel a lot of energy. And it's going to be difficult for them to go to bed at the same time because they're just energized. But just to see their pattern of sleep, they have more of a pattern of sleep, but they really need the rest. Do you have any reflectors that you know?
I just met my first reflector this weekend, but only because we were running everybody's chart for fun. I
Okay.
don't know her that well though. I just got to.
Okay. It would be good to ask her what her rhythm for sleep is.
Okay.
Every day is going to be different for her. And some days she'll be more tired or exhausted than others.
She did share that she she does make decisions by talking and talking and talking and talking and hearing herself talk. So
Interesting. So I would say that sleep is very important toward for health. And every type has a protocol. And once you get into those sleep patterns, it can be very supportive. And particularly, I go back to generators and projectors, because generators and projectors have specific protocols that people should just experiment with them. The worst thing to do in listening to this or reading a book on human design is conceptually say, I must do this. And you use your inner authority and just experiment, see what works, because everybody's different, everybody's unique, and everybody has a different bio clock. So some projectors may stay up till 2 a.m, or they may be nocturnal. So it can appear that they're night owls, but they need to sleep during the day. So the individual imprint is very important.
And that's really the idea all the whole way along, Barbara, right? Is to read about your type and read about it and then experiment and just see what it is. Because sometimes the type will feel really right on, and sometimes you'll feel the opposite. And then you can look into, okay, is this conditioning? Did I learn this, right? Did I learn that question? Did I learn that behavior?
Yes. And it really, when you were saying, did I learn that behavior? It's almost as though when and you've shared with this, Megan, and some of the things you've shared, like with your husband and that what's happening in the home, there's less resistance. There's less what I call this feeling something's wrong, something's off. I need to change something in myself. You're just responding differently. You're accepting different invitations. You're in your rhythm. Life is easier.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing all this, Barbara. That's super helpful. So will you tell everybody where they can find you? I know my husband and I are signed up for a session because you do couples relationship, right? Like we're going to read our charts together, which I think is another part of human design that I'm really fascinated by, is that it's not just what your type is, but it's also, it's how you interact with other designs, right? It's more about that interaction. So share a little bit about that and what you offer.
I offer, regular overview readings, which helps an individual understand their purpose in life, where they are in a particular cycle, and their type, and the way they make decisions, and where the decisions are to be made from. And then I offer partnership readings as well, and then business career profile readings. Because oftentimes when people understand their type, they say, well, what do I do in my business? And usually when people get further into their experiment or understanding their design, they usually want to switch what they're doing, either how they're doing it or the career they're involved in. So I have a website, and it's simple. It's humandesignconsultations.com. So I provide the consultations and then ongoing support if someone is having what I call a challenging time because of their environment or the situation, to help them fine tune their decision making and deal with the changes that happen.
Thank you so much. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, so you can go find Barbara. Thank you so much, Barbara. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.